Attachment is forbidden. An Obi-Wan Kenobi fanfiction by Dead Sparrow. Chapter 9. So you do like him. Aure's perspective. I arrived at Palpatine's quarters later than the Queen. When I reached the room, I saw little Anakin and Jar Jar kneeling down in front of the door. I stood next to them and crossed my arms with an expression of disappointment on my face. I coughed, trying to get their attention, as they hadn't noticed my presence. They finally looked up at me, and I could see they were surprised. Anakin stood up and looked at me with innocent eyes. Cute, but not cute enough. Eavesdropping isn't a nice thing to do, I told them, resting my hands on my hips, especially when there's a conversation about politics in the room. We're sorry, Miss Cinder, but we were very curious, and we didn't hear anything, I swear, and we won't do it again, Anakin said, looking at the floor with a guilty voice. I knelt down in front of him. He looked back at me. I smiled, and so did he. Apologies accepted. And please, just call me Aure, Anakin. I stood up again and continued. Now leave and take Jar Jar with you before he does something stupid again. It surprises me that he hasn't broken anything yet. Anakin giggled at this, took Jar Jar's hand, and left, running with him. I smiled at the child and knocked on the room's door. Someone from inside told me to come in. When I entered the room, Senator Palpatine was pacing while talking to the Queen. Two of her handmaids were beside her. One of them was Padmé. The Republic is not what it once was, Palpatine said, and he kept criticizing the Senate and its members. He proposed pushing the election of a new Supreme Chancellor, as he did not consider Valorum a good one. Oh gosh, I can read. I rolled my eyes at this. Supreme Chancellor Valorum, oh my gosh, had always been our strongest supporter. I would have said something about this, but who would care about a soldier's opinion on politics? I'd say we're going to have to accept the Federation control for the time being, Palpatine said. Of course. The Queen refused to do this. I understood Palpatine was trying to convince her to push the election, making her think it was their only choice. I just hoped Senator Palpatine wouldn't be elected. Something about him was suspicious. I didn't trust him a bit. Hours passed, and I was guarding the Queen's room when I saw Anakin coming. May I help you, Annie? I asked him nicely. I'm looking for the handmaiden, Padmé, he answered nervously. I'm sorry, Annie. Padmé is not here right now. I lied. Padmé was actually in the room, but she was wearing her Queen's clothing, and she was getting ready for her meeting with the Senate, and the boy could not know her real identity. Who is it? The real Queen asked from the side. I opened the door slightly, just enough for me to talk to her. Anakin Skywalker, to see Padmé, Your Highness, I replied while looking at Annie apologetically. The Queen moved forward and opened the door fully. I guess she wanted to talk with the kid. She looked at Anakin, who bowed and looked down, then took a peek at her. I've sent Padmé on an errand, the Queen lied. I had to try to not laugh. It was weird seeing Padmé talking about herself, but it was funny. I'm going to the Jedi Temple to start my training, I hope. I may not see her again, and I just wanted to say goodbye, Annie told her. I thought it was nice that he had thought about saying goodbye to his new friend, and by the way that Padmé was looking at him, she must have found it nice and sweet, too. We will tell her for you. We're sure her heart goes with you, Padmé finished the conversation. Anakin bowed again and said, Thank you, Your Highness. Padmé smiled at him and returned to the room. I followed her inside and told her, Little Anakin seems to have grown fond of you. He may have a little crush on you, don't you think? I teased her. You're not the right person to talk about crushes, Aure, she replied with a knowing smile. What do you mean? I asked her with a confused face. Nothing. It just really looks like you're very close to a certain Jedi, she replied. And I'm obviously not talking about Master Qui-Gon. I laughed at this. Oh, yeah. You're talking about Obi-Wan then, right? Well, I can't deny he's a good person, intelligent, and a great fighter, and quite good looking too, I admitted, embarrassed. So you do like him? She had a wide smile. No, well, yes, but it's nothing special. It's just a silly little crush. I chuckled, trying to convince myself rather than her. Then I continued, besides, he's a Jedi. I heard somewhere that they can't have those types of relationships. It would be impossible. Her smile disappeared, and she opened her mouth to say something, but one of her handmaidens knocked on the door and said, Your Highness, the Senate meeting will start soon. Senator Palpatine is waiting for you. Thank you. I'll be going now, the Queen replied. Then she looked back at me and asked, Will you come to the meeting? No, thank you. I'm tired of politics. I've had enough for today, and I'd like to visit some places of Coruscant. Good luck at the meeting, I refused. As you wish. I'll see you later, Miss Cinder. She turned around and left me thinking about all the things I wanted to see in Coruscant before heading back to Naboo. One of those was the Jedi Temple. Why? The main reason was seeing a Padawan who was there right then. With the help of some people, I arrived at the Jedi Temple. The sun was starting to hide already when I entered the huge building, where a man dressed in Jedi clothes welcomed me and asked me who I was and if I needed any help. I'm Queen Amidala's lifeguard. I came here to see two friends of mine, two Jedi, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. The man nodded and told me to follow him. We went up some floors, and I followed him through large corridors until we got to a balcony where two voiced discuss. I thanked the man who led me there for his help, and he left. I stayed behind the wall, as I didn't want to interrupt them. You could be sitting on the council by now if you would just follow the code. I recognized Obi-Wan's voice. They will not go along with you this time. You still have much to learn, my young apprentice, his master replied, then left his apprentice. When Qui-Gon started leaving, I began to wonder if he would see me. He actually saw me when he walked near me, stopped for a second, and pointed with his eyes at Obi-Wan, who was looking at the beautiful sunset. I suppose Qui-Gon wanted me to talk to the young Padawan, as he seemed worried and in need of a friend. So I approached Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon left us alone. Padmé's words replayed in my head while I was walking towards him. So you do like him. I did like him. A lot, actually. And I could not deny that, but he could not know that, and even if he knew, he would not care. Chapter 10. About Attachment. Obi-Wan's Perspective. Hello, Kenobi. I heard a voice I could recognize anywhere. I turned around and smiled when I saw her in front of me. Hello, Aure, I simply said before looking back at the landscape. Is there any problem? The girl asked, concerned. Yes, Anakin is my problem, I answered quickly and harshly. He's just a kid, Obi-Wan. That is not a nice thing to say about him, she told me seriously while approaching to stand next to me. I'm sorry. I turned my head to look at her. It's just... I tried to find the right words. Master Qui-Gon frustrates me sometimes. He doesn't seem to understand that the boy is too old to start his training. He's always defying the council and... I was cut off when she took my left hand in hers and gave it a weak squeeze. I couldn't talk anymore. Relax. Take a deep breath. Talk slowly. I didn't really listen to what she had said. I just stared at her linked hands. The feeling of her skin, together with her soothing voice, made me relax. She kept talking. Now tell me, what's the problem with Anakin's age? It took me some time to realize that she had asked me a question, so I didn't explain until some seconds later. Children usually start their training much younger, plus he's already very attached to his mother. I bet he misses her, and he's scared for her. That could cause problems. What problems could his attachment to his mother cause? She asked me, very curious, letting go of my hand. Attachment is a problem itself. It's forbidden to us, the Jedi. Attachment brings out feelings like jealousy or fear, which leads to the dark side. So you mustn't love? Her question caught me by surprise. I looked down, trying to find the perfect words to explain something that was against what I felt. We can love. It's natural. We can't help feel it. But we must not act on our feelings, I told her, hoping that she would not ask any more questions about love. Talking about it with her felt strange, since the feelings I had for her grew more and more each minute I spent with her and every second I heard her voice. So marriage is out of question, Aure said, making me look back at her. I saw some sadness in her eyes before she looked at the sunset in front of us. Well, I never thought about it. That was true. I never thought about forming a family. I hadn't even thought about love until she came. I guess I've always known marriage and family are two things I can't afford, I said in almost a whisper. It makes sense, she replied, but suddenly changed the subject of the conversation. Where is little Annie? He's in the council chambers. They need to find out if he can be trained, I answered, not very happy. I hope he'll be trained. It's his dream, you know. Of course she'd say that. She was very kind with the boy. She was very kind with everyone. I don't think he'll turn to the dark side because of this attachment. He's too good for that, she said while resting her hand on my shoulder. I smiled at her and she smiled back, instantly making me feel much better. We didn't say anything more. Words were not needed. It was just Aure and me, alone, looking at the sunset, waiting for the bright stars to appear. Many would have said that the most beautiful sight in the galaxy, but to me, it was the girl standing next to me, still smiling while looking at the sky with those beautiful eyes of hers. I don't know how much time we spent there. I just know how much I wanted her to stay when she told me that she had to leave.